Hi everyone, in this lesson we're going to look at how we increase and decrease numbers by a fraction. So let's look at our first example. It says a hardware store sells a drill for £140. The price of the drill set is increased by 2/5. Calculate the new price of the drill set. This is a non-calculator question, so let's jump into this and see how we do it. Well, I know that the price of the drill set is increased by 2/5, and the 2/5 is 2/5 of the £140. So let's go ahead and start by working out what that is. Well, I know that 1/5 of £140 is equal to £140 divided by 5. I'll do a little bit of short division, so I'll take my 140 and divide it by 5. 5 goes into 14 twice to give me 10 with 4 left over. 5 goes into 40 8 times. So 140 divided by 5 is 28. So that's what 1/5 of 140 is. 2/5 of £140 is going to be equal to, well, 2 times what 1/5 was, so it's going to be 2 times £28. Again, I'll set up my calculation off to the side, 28 multiplied by 2. 2 multiplied by 8 is 16, exchange that 1. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4, add on the 1 to give me 5, so that's £56. Let's go back and make sure we're answering the question. Calculate the new price of the drill set. Well, the drill set was increased by 2/5, in other words, it was increased by £56. To work out the new price, I'm going to take 140 and add on 56. So we'll say the new price is equal to what it was before, add on the increase, like this. Set that up off to the side, 150, add on my 56. 6 and 0 is 6. 5 and 4 is 9, and I've got a 1. So the new price is £196. So this is one way to do the question, work out what 2/5 is. Let's look at a slightly different way to do it. So the other way I can do the question is by using what's called a multiplier. And what I mean by a multiplier is what fraction represents an increase of 2/5. And the way we can think of this is if the original value is worth 1, or you could think of that as 100%, but the original value is worth 1, we've added on 2/5 of this value, and that's given us our new answer. Well, 1 is equal to 5/5 as an equivalent fraction. And the reason I've turned it into 5/5 is so that I can add my 2/5 together with it. So 5/5 and 2/5 is 7/5. So we can come back up here and remember we said originally the drill set was represented by 1 or 100%. And then we added on 2/5 of the price, we're left with 7/5. What this means is the new drill set price is 7/5 of the original. And this fraction allows me to multiply straight to my answer. So we'll take our £140 and multiply it by 7/5. That represents a 2/5 increase. And I'll do this calculation. What I need to know is that multiplying by 7/5 is equivalent to dividing by 5 and then multiplying by 7. The number on the denominator is what I'm dividing by, and the number on the numerator is what I'm multiplying by. Let's go ahead and divide 140 by 5 and then multiply by 7. I'll take my 140, divide it by 5. 5 goes into 14 twice to give me 10 with 4 left over. 5 goes into 40 8 times. I then take 28 and I multiply it by 7. 7 multiplied by 8 gives me 56, exchange my 5 across. 7 multiplied by 2 is 14, add on my 5 to give me 19. So this is equal to £196, which is the same answer we got before. Pause the video and give this question a go. You can use whatever method you feel most comfortable with. Okay, let's run through this. During a sale, all keyboards in an electrical shop are sold at 1/3 off their normal price. Calculate the sale price of a keyboard that normally costs £45. Okay, so during the sale, they are sold at 1/3 off their normal price. I want to start by calculating what 1/3 of £45 is. And remember, to work out 1/3 of something, well, that's the same as multiplying it by 1/3. I'm working out 1/3 of 45. And of course, multiplying by 1/3 is equivalent to dividing by 3. And 45 divided by 3 gives me an answer of 15. So the 1/3 off is £15 off. That means the sale price is equal to the £45, so the original value, subtract the £15 off, which is equal to £30. You may also have used the multiplier method, so let's have a quick look at that. If we consider that the original price of the keyboard is 1, and we have to be careful because this is a decrease by a fraction question, it's 1/3 off, we've taken 1/3 away from that price. Well, 1 is equivalent to 3/3, take away 1/3, which is equal to 2/3. What that means is, after the reduction, the price that remains is 2/3 of the original. I can take £45, multiply it by 2/3, and this will take me straight to my answer. Multiplying by 2/3 is equivalent to dividing by 3 and then multiplying by 2. The number on the denominator tells us what we're dividing by. The number on the numerator tells us what we're multiplying by. So I'll do 45 divided by 3 and then multiply by 2. 45 divided by 3 is 15. 15 multiplied by 2 is equal to 30. And as you can see, that gives me the same answer as I got the other way. Okay, let's have a look at our next example. A scientist is monitoring a bacteria culture that contains 24 million bacteria. Over the course of a day, the scientist estimates that the number of bacteria have increased by 5/4. Calculate the new number of bacteria. If we know that the number of bacteria have increased by 5/4, we want to work out 5/4 of the original bacteria, which was 24 million. Let's start by working out 1/4 of 24 million. Of course, I'm not going to use 24 million. I'll just say 24m. That'll help me keep the numbers a bit easier. 1/4 of 24 million is equal to 24 million divided by 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So my answer is 6 million. That's 1/4. We have 5/4. 5/4 of 24 million is going to be 5 times as many as 1/4. 5 times 6 million, which is 30 million. The number of bacteria have increased by 5/4. We've worked out that that is equivalent to 30 million. Calculate the new number of bacteria. Well, we had 24 million and we've gained 30 million. So that is equal to 54 million. Pause the video and give this question a go. At the start of the month, Wes Huff has 80,000 YouTube subscribers. Over the course of the month, his number of subscribers increases by 3/2. Work out the number of subscribers he has at the end of the month. So he started with 80,000. He has gained, or there's been an increase of 3/2. Let's start by working out what 1/2 of 80,000 is. Again, I'm going to represent 80,000 as 80k, similar to how I represented 24 million as 24m. 1/2 of 80k is equal to 40k, and his subscribers have increased by 3/2. So I need to work out what 3/2 of 80k is. 3/2 of 80k is going to be 3 times as many as 1/2. So 3 times 40, that's like doing 3 times 4. Well, that's 3 times 4 is 12, so 3 times 40 is 120. So he's increased by 120k. Work out the number of subscribers he has at the end of the month. Well, he started with 80,000 and he's gained 120,000. And then I'll do 80 add 120 to give me 200. So he's now got 200k, not 200, but 200,000. I might write that as 200,000, like that. Our next example is a worded exam style question. A sailing yacht has 400 litres of drinking water on board. During a voyage, each crew member uses an average of 5 litres of drinking water per day. There are 3 crew members on the yacht. What fraction of the original supply of drinking water is used in one day? Well, if we know that there are 3 crew members on board and every crew member uses 5 litres of drinking water every day, we can work out how much drinking water was used. Because we're only dealing with one day, that's nice and straightforward. So let's say the water used is equal to the 5 litres multiplied by the 3 crew members, which is going to be 15 litres per day. The question's asked us what fraction of the original supply, well that's of course the 400 litres, is used in one day. So we want to know what fraction of the 400 is the 15. Let's write that fraction in words just to help us understand it. So the question asks what fraction of the original supply is used in one day. That's going to be equal to this fraction, the water used over the original supply. We know the water used is 15 litres. And we know the original supply contained 400 litres. That's 15 out of 400. We can simplify that fraction by dividing through by 5 on the numerator and on the denominator. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And 400 divided by 5, quick way to do that, we'll do 40 divided by 5. Well, that's 8. So 400 divided by 5 must be 80. What fraction of the original supply of drinking water is used in one day? 3/80. Pause the video and give this question a go. A charity has £24,000 in its account. After a highly successful fundraising evening, the charity's balance increases to 36,000. What fraction of the original amount was the increase? Let's start off by working out what the increase was. The increase is going to be equal to the 36,000, subtract the 24,000, which is going to be equal to 12,000. Mental strategy for that is just doing 36, take away 24. And we want to know what fraction of the original amount was the increase. So we're looking at the fraction that looks like this. What is the increase out of the original? The increase is 12,000. The original was 24,000. And we can simplify that fraction, divide through by 1,000 on the numerator and denominator. It's 12 over 24. Divide through by 12 on the numerator and on the denominator gives you 1/2. What fraction of the original amount was the increase? We gained 1/2 of the original amount. All right, our next example is about finding the original value given a fractional increase. Due to rising property prices, the value of a house increases by 3/20. The house is now worth £230,000. Work out its value before the increase. The value of the house originally, we're going to say, was 1, and it's increased by 3/20. So let's work out the new fraction that represents the new price of the house. So if the house originally cost 1, or you could think of that as 100%, and we gained 3/20 because it says it increased by 3/20, we can work out a new fraction, and that represents what fraction of the original the new house is worth. I'll write 1 as a fraction by saying 20 over 20, and then I'm adding on 3/20. And that gives me this answer of 23/20. And this represents the new price of the house relative to the original. It's 23/20 of the original. We're going to introduce a little bit of algebra. We're going to say, let the original price of the house be X. What we know is that the original house price multiplied by 23/20 is equal to the final house price of 230,000. And the reason we can say that is because this 23/20 represents the 3/20 increase. So we've taken our original house price, we've increased it by 3/20, which is equivalent to this fraction, and that's given us the new house price. I'm just going to tidy this up. I'm going to write it as 23 over 20x being equal to 230,000. And what I then want to do is I want to work out what the original value was. If I know 23/20 is 230,000, I might want to start by working out what 1/20 is. I can do that by dividing both sides by 23. I'm running out of room, so I'm just going to write up here. That means that 1/20 of the original house price is equal to 230,000 divided by 23. I then need to do 230,000 divided by 23. Quick tip for this is to write this as 230,000 divided by 23, and then do 230 divided by 23, which is going to be 10. So it's 10,000. So 1/20 of the house price is £10,000. I can then multiply by 20 to get 20/20. Of course, that is 1, or the original value of the house. And I need to do that to the 10,000 as well. I'll do 10,000 multiplied by 20, and I'll use a related calculation to help me get this right. I know that 10,000 multiplied by 2 is 20,000. So I know that 10,000 multiplied by 20 is going to be 10 times larger. It's going to be 200,000. Remember, we said 20/20 is just 1, so that means that x is equal to 200,000, and x represented the original house price. We can go ahead and answer our question, work out its value before the increase. The answer is £200,000. And that seems like a very reasonable value. Pause the video and give this question a go. The population of deer in Bradgate Park decreases by 3/19. There are now 320 deer in the park. Calculate the original deer population. Okay, let's say let x be equal to the original population of deer. We know that the original population of deer can be represented by 1, and it's been decreased by 3/19. So if we work out this calculation, it will give us what fraction remains. 1 I'll write as 19 over 19, and I'll take away my 3/19. 19 subtract 3 is 16. So what that means is 6/19 of the population remain. 6/19 of the population, so 6/19 of x, is equal to the remaining number of deer, which is 320. We know 16/19 is 320. Let's work out what 1/19 is. Of course, to do that, we'd divide by 16. Let's do that on both sides. 320 divided by 16 will do 32 divided by 16 to give me 2. So 320 divided by 16 is 20. 1/19 of the population is 20. Let's multiply by 19 to get what the original population is. And I'll do 20 multiplied by 19. 9 multiplied by 0 is 0. 9 multiplied by 2 is 18. I'm going to start to do 1 multiplied by this, but I have to remember I'm in the tens column, so I'll put down a 0. 1 multiplied by 0 is 0. 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. Add those numbers together to give you an answer of 380. So let's make sure we've answered the question. Calculate the original deer population. The answer is 380. Our next type of question is a successive fractional change. Successive just means there's more than one fractional change in the question. Let's have a look. A small company employs 48 workers. In 2025, the company expands and its workforce increases by 1/4. In 2026, the company experiences financial difficulties and 2/3 of its workers leave. How many workers remain at the end of 2026? So originally there were 48 workers, and then in 2025, they had this expansion and they increased by 1/4. So I want to work out what 1/4 of 48 is. So I'll do 1/4 of 48. And to do 1/4, I'm going to divide by 4. So 48 divided by 4 is 12. So there was a 12 worker increase. So this 1/4 increase is 12. Let's work out the new number of employees. So it's 2025. There were originally 48 and we gain 12. That takes us up to 60 workers. All right, let's look at the next part. In 2026, the company experiences financial difficulties and 2/3 of its workers leave. Now it's 2/3 of the 60 workers, not 2/3 of the 48. Let's work out 2/3 of 60. So 1/3 of 60 is 60 divided by 3, which is 20. So 2/3 of 60 is going to be 2 lots of 1/3, or 2 lots of 20, which is 40. And these 40 workers leave. So the remaining workers, that's equal to the 60 workers that were there. Subtract the 40 workers that left, that leaves 20 workers. Pause the video and give this question a go, and then we'll have a look at the answer. A reservoir contains 60 million litres of water. During a dry summer, the amount of water in the reservoir decreases by 2/5. After several weeks of heavy rainfall in autumn, the amount of water increases by 1/2. How many litres of water are in the reservoir by the end of autumn? So there's originally 60 million litres. Again, we're going to write that as 60m just to make it a little easier. And the amount of water in the reservoir has decreased by 2/5. So let's work out 2/5 of 60 million. Before we work out 2/5, let's work out 1/5. So 1/5 of 60 million is equal to 60 million divided by 5. 60 divided by 5 is 12. So it's 12 million. Now we want to work out 2/5. So 2/5 of 60 million is going to be 2 times the 12 million, which is equal to 24 million. So during a dry summer, the amount of water in the reservoir decreases by 2/5. It's decreased by 24 million. Let's work out the amount of water by the end of summer. So at the end of summer, we had our original 60 million, but we've lost 24 million. And that's equal to 36 million. Then we have some rainfall. So after several weeks of heavy rainfall in autumn, the amount of water increases by 1/2. The 1/2 is of the 36 million. So let's work out 1/2 of 36 million. That's going to be equal to 36 million divided by 2, which is equal to 18 million. So this amount has increased. It's been added on to our 36. Let's answer our question. How many liters of water are in the reservoir by the end of autumn? So we'll say end of autumn. And that's going to be equal to what there was at the end of summer, and then adding on the rainfall, which is half of the 36. And I do that calculation, and it gives me an answer of 54 million. Okay, our last type of example is finding the overall fractional change. Matt has invested some money in a stocks and shares account. The stock market performs very well in 2025, and the value of his account increases by 3/10. During 2026, a market downturn causes the value of his account to decrease by 8/13. Calculate the overall fractional increase or decrease in the value of his account. Now, it doesn't actually tell us the money he's invested in the account. It says he's invested some money. So we're not going to be able to do this by working out actual values that his account has increased by, but instead we're going to work with these fractional increases and fractional decreases as multipliers. So let's look at this first one. His account has increased by 3/10. We want to work out what fraction represents a 3/10 increase. It wouldn't be multiplying by 3/10 because, of course, that wouldn't actually increase a value by anything because that number is not greater than 1. So the way to think of this is the original money in his account was worth 1 or 100%, and we added on 3/10. This is going to give us the fraction of the original that the new account represents. So let's go ahead and do this. 1 is equal to 10 over 10, and we'll add on our 3/10. This gives us 13/10. So this is the fractional multiplier. In other words, it's what I'd multiply the original by to get the new amount. This fraction represents a 3/10 increase. But we've also got a decrease in this question. It says the value of his account decreases by 8/13. Let's work out what fraction would represent an 8/13 decrease. Again, we start with 1, and then we'd be taking away 8/13. 1 I can think of as 13 over 13. Take away 8/13, and that gives you 5/13. So this multiplier represents an 8/13 decrease, which makes sense because if you've lost 8/13, you should have 5/13 remaining. And similarly up here, this represents a 3/10 increase. If you started with 1 whole and you added on 3/10, you'd get 13/10. Then let's go to the question and see what we have to do. It says calculate the overall fractional increase or decrease. So what I'll say is the overall change is equal to the value of money in his account. So let's assume that that was X. We don't actually need this, but it might be helpful to just show you. So let's say there was X in his account. We would have increased it by 3/10, which is equivalent to multiplying by 13/10. That's our 3/10 increase. And then we would have decreased it by 8/13. That's equivalent to multiplying by 5/13. So hopefully you can understand this calculation. There's the original amount, we've increased it by 3/10, then we've decreased it by 8/13. What I'm going to do is tidy up these fractions. If you notice, I can do a little bit of cross simplifying, get rid of the 13s like that, and then divide through by 5 on the denominator and on the numerator. And so what I can say is that this is equal to X, that's the original amount, and I've multiplied it by 1/2. Calculate the overall fractional increase or decrease. Well, if I start with a value of 1, and to get my final value, I've essentially got a half left over. What that means is my fractional change is a half decrease. So my answer to this question is a 1/2 decrease, which makes sense because I've got half of the original value left over. Therefore, I've lost a half. Pause the video and give this question a go. Fred has some money in a private pension fund. The value of his pension increases by 3/5 and then decreases by 1/10. Calculate the overall fractional increase or decrease in the value of the account. Let's start off by looking at what fraction represents a 3/5 increase. So we start with 1, we add on 3/5. 1 is 5 over 5, adding on my 3/5. That gives me a fraction of 8/5. So this represents a 3/5 increase. It then decreases by 1/10. Let's work out what fraction that is represented by. So 1 subtract 1/10 is 9/10. So this fraction here represents a 1/10 decrease. To get our overall change, we take our 8/5, that's our 3/5 increase, and we multiply it by our 9/10. That's our 1/10 decrease. Let's do a bit of cross simplifying where I can. So I can divide through by 2 on the numerator here, and on the denominator here. Then I'll go ahead and do 4 multiplied by 9 to give me 36, and 5 multiplied by 5 to give me 25. So I can interpret this as an increase because it's greater than 1. In other words, I've taken my original, I've multiplied it by this is the overall fraction. And because that overall fraction is greater than 1, I know it's an increase. But to work out what fractional increase that is, I'm going to take the 36 over 25. And you could think of it as kind of undoing this step that we did over here. To get our fractional increase, I did 1 add the fraction. And what I want to do is I actually want to work out what was this fraction, or what was this fraction? And of course, to do that, I would need to take away 1 from this. So I'm going to take away 1. That's 25 over 25. 36 take away 25 is 11. So it's 11 25ths that has been added on to 25 over 25. Just to help you see that, if I started with 1 and I added on 11 25ths, that gives me 36 25ths. So my fractional increase is this right here. It's the 11 25ths. So my answer is it's 11 25ths increase. If you're using our lesson booklets, you can now complete exercises 1 to 4. Thank you for watching this video.